Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Now this video is going to be a bit of a mashup of Joseph Parker's card on December 15th. So we've got Junior Fa who's competing on that card. His opponent has been announced. There's some interesting statements in the press release about his opponent. Not so much about the opponent, but comments about Fa and Parker that I want to touch on. And also, there's been some talk from Joseph Parker about what he's doing in camp. I reported on this in my heavyweight news and brief, but I've just been thinking about this strength and conditioning work that they're doing in this current camp. Just wanted to wade in with a few thoughts because I think we've been here before and some of the results weren't quite what they were after last time. So, yeah, but I'll get to that shortly. But if we start with Junior Fa, so getting to the press release that Duco Events has issued. So this event is December the 15th, Joseph Parker versus Alexander Flores at the Horncastle Arena in Christchurch. Junior Fa, who has previously beaten Joseph Parker in the amateurs, they split honours 2 wins apiece. He is on the undercard. So the press release, it starts, undefeated Kiwi heavyweight prospect Junior Fa will take on Argentine former world cruiserweight title contender Rogelio Omar Rossi in the main undercard bout of the Joseph Parker Alexander the Great Flores fight night, blah blah blah. The giant Fa, who is 15-0, so Fa is 6'5", ranked number 10 in the world by the WBO, will use the bout to show he deserves a shot at compatriot Joseph Parker, the recently deposed WBO heavyweight champion. This is a huge opportunity for me for sure, Fa said from Tuscaloosa, United States, where he is sparring with Deontay Wilder to help the WBC champion prepare for a blockbuster showdown with Tyson Fury on December 1st. I'm going to grab it with both hands. An impressive display from Fa would put him on a collision course with Kiwi rival Parker, Fa's manager Mark Cadell said. Junior is going to show the world what he can do and serve notice to Joseph Parker that he is coming for him, Cadell said. He's beaten him before and he will beat him again. Fa and Parker squared their amateur contests 2 wins apiece, while Parker's professional career followed a fast track to the WBO title, while Fa's has been more of a slow burn. Junior has taken a path through America rather than through New Zealand like Joseph did, Cadell said. Their paths are now converging. Joseph has done incredibly well, and everyone has a huge amount of respect for him. But there are holes in his game. Everyone can see that. When the time is right, Junior will expose those holes. But for now, he is concentrating on the job at hand, testing himself against the most dangerous fighter on the planet, and then taking care of Rossi. We've got a couple of massive things in the pipeline for Junior. When they are done, we'll turn our attention to Joseph Parker. It goes on, a tricky southpaw Rossi, who is 26-1, challenged Marco Huck for the WBO World Cruiserweight title in 2011. He lost that fight after being struck by Huck after the bell in the 5th round. Parker's promoter David Higgins of Duco Events said the time had come for Fa to put up or shut up. Junior is hugely talented, but he is blown hot and cold as a professional fighter. He's earned this chance to step up on the big stage in Christchurch on December 15. Let's see what he does with it. He's now ranked 10 by the WBO, so let's see if he can justify that ranking. Higgins said he was open to a potential Parker and Fa showdown. If Junior can prove he is worthy of a shot at Joseph, then he'll get his shot, Higgins said. He's not quite there yet, but he's not that far off. Parker welcomed Fa's presence on the undercard of his homecoming fight in New Zealand following 3 blockbuster fights in the United Kingdom. We did have a rivalry in the amateurs, but a lot has changed since then. As I've always said, I'll fight whoever my team has put in front of me. Right now, that is Alex Flores, and that is who I am focusing on. I'm fighting a guy with 1 loss and 15 KO, so I can't afford to take my eye off the ball. More undercard announcements should be expected soon, David Higgins said. He went on to say, this is shaping up as the biggest night of boxing in Christchurch's history. I'd encourage people wherever they are in the country to make plans to get there sooner rather than later. It's not a night you'll want to miss out on. Tickets starting from $39. Okay, so let's start with the opponent for Junior Fa. It kind of is what it is, Rogelio Omar Rossi. So not exactly making waves in the heavyweight division. He will have been chosen, no doubt. I mean, he's a former cruiserweight. Obviously, he's got some pedigree there for challenging for a world title. But at the end of the day, they're not setting Junior Fa up to fail in this fight on December 15. This is a bit of a showcase for Fa to come out and look good. So expect Junior Fa to come into this one and take care of business. And actually, let's go have a look at this guy's record. Rogilo Omar Rossi, so he's 26-1. He's 37 years old, 6'6.5". So, geez, he was a pretty big cruiserweight. So he's going to be a tall and wiry guy by the look of it. What's he been doing? So he's still not really weighing in a hang of a lot over the limit. Just a couple of fights ago came in at 204 pounds, but his record 26-1. Since that loss to Marco Hook back in 2011, very inactive overall. Only had 6 fights. He actually had a absence of almost 4 years between 2012 and 2016. He's had 4 fights since 2017 at heavyweight. One of them against Zhanlong Zhang, and the rest of them, well, not much to write home about there. 2 of those he actually lost. So since 2011, 4 of his 6 losses have come. But in terms of facing Junior Fa, it's probably not going to really be too much of a challenge. And remember, Junior Fa hasn't had a great year. He ended 2017 with a bang. He knocked out Fred Latham, and that performance turned a lot of heads, and he got a lot of sort of a buzz on the back of that. ESPN had him ranked as the 12th best prospect in all of boxing. But 2018 hasn't been as kind. So he had a fight against Craig Lewis, I believe that was back in March, and he got the win, and, you know, it was just an okay performance. He sort of fell in love with his power. He tried to sort of bang Lewis out of there, and it just didn't work. And in the end, he looked a little bit flat, a little bit one-dimensional. It was just sort of, 1-2 and just trying to land the right hand. But it didn't end up paying dividends, and he sort of started blowing a bit harder in the second half of that fight. It was an 8-rounder from memory. But yeah, after that he fought Luis Pascual in June. That was June the 22nd. That was back in New Zealand. That guy, Luis Pascual, was the Mexican champion, but not the best heavyweight in Mexico. And Mexico not noted for its heavyweights generally. But it was actually I don't want to say dreadful fight, but it wasn't exactly the sort of performance that Fa would have liked to have put on. It sort of became a little bit samey, one-dimensional, sort of, again, the 1-2, trying to unload the right hand. He could have thrown the left hook, and as it turned out afterwards, he had a problem with his left hand. That sort of explains why he didn't throw the left hook or the uppercut, which was there all night but wasn't taken. But also it emerged that he'd had some health problems as well. So the full detail on that has never really come out, and I hope to ask Junior Fa about that, perhaps after he gets back from his camp with Deontay Wilder. But in terms of that, some of the expectations, some of the buzz, it really sort of ebbed away after that performance against Pascual. So December the 15th, it's a showcase for Junior Fa. He needs to look good. That's important for his career, because they had been hoping after the Pascual fight to have a couple more fights, sort of August, September time, October, around that in the United States. But in the end, the pin was pulled on that one, and they didn't do it. So this is a chance for him to come back in the ring, get a stoppage of some sort, because that's what he should be looking for and should be expecting with this level of opponent. This guy that he's facing, Rogilo Omar Rossi, 37, he looks relatively faded by some of the opposition that he's been facing. So, I wouldn't expect that Junior Fa is going to have too much trouble. Maybe I'm not giving this guy enough credit, but, I mean, that's the thing with this. He's had a former title challenge at a different weight class. It's got some credibility about it, and that's why he's been picked. But, sort of like Thomas Adamek recently, you can tell these guys are past prime. So Junior Fa should be able to take care of business on this one. But in terms of the rest of the press release, which really it's trying to sow the seeds for a Junior Fa and Joseph Parker fight, talking it up in terms of this is an opportunity for Fa to sort of stake a claim for it. And a couple of months ago, it emerged that, Duco and Far's representatives had started talking about this in terms of not now, but they'd started talking about down the line they should look to potentially fight each other. And judging by this, you've got, because remember, Duco Events has put out this press release. It's got a number of quotes from Far's manager, Mark Cadell, sort of talking it up, launching into Joseph Parker a bit, talking about the holes that can be sort of exposed, and Junior Far will be able to do this, that, and the other. It's pretty standard stuff, and you expect it. But in terms of a Joseph Parker and Junior Far fight, for me, that needs a lot more cooking on the stove before we're ready as a public to sort of consume that. Because, it's Junior Far, he's still considered a prospect, 15-0. He needs some contender level wins to really get in the conversation to fight Joseph Parker. And this guy that he's facing on December 15th, it's just not going to be enough. And this is a fight I sort of see in 2 years' time, not now, not next year. Because Far's got much more work to do. He's got to go on to bigger things, sort of prove himself, get some wins under the belt, legitimate contender level wins, and that will help build the fight. That'll help build Far's profile, the buzz for a Parker and Far fight, which you could see in a couple of years would be a decent sort of fight in terms of a payday for both. But Far has to do the work to get there. Arguably, Joseph Parker has done that, former champion. He's got a number of contender level wins on his record, so he's done the hard yards for his career, and he's looking to rebuild, with a knockout on December 15th, knock out Alex Flores and move on to something bigger and better in 2019. So in terms of a rematch of sorts, which would be a rubber match for Far and Parker, who were 2-2 in the amateurs, I could see it happening, but it's just not sort of time for that right now. But, certainly looking good on December 15th. It's not going to hurt Junior Far, but he's got more work to do. And as I alluded to, Joseph Parker's been talking more about strength and conditioning. And as reported by Helen Yee on Sports, which was re-reported by stuff.co.nz, we're doing strength and power more in this camp. I'm feeling the benefits from it, and I'm hoping at the end of this camp we will be at a different level of strength and power. We will still have the mobility and movement. Speed, movement, power combinations, they're what I'm looking for to put on display. This sort of push for more strength, more power, it's interesting because it's not the first time they've tried this. Sort of back in 2016, they embarked on a bit of a campaign to thicken Joseph Parker's legs out, try sort of bulk him up a little bit. They talked about getting him ready for the big boys of the heavyweight division, for the guys that were really big, really powerful, and they wanted to try and make Joseph Parker similarly more powerful. But it didn't really seem to pay off, and in the end, Joseph Parker he did put on more muscle, he did get bigger, he was weighing in the mid-240s, and he just looked like he'd lost a step in terms of the speed and agility, and everyone commented on that. And eventually, Kevin Barry sort of came out and said, we look to do this, and, Joseph Parker's legs are much bigger now, but it hasn't had the desired effect that we thought it would. And they sort of went back to the drawing board, and after that, for the Anthony Joshua fight in particular, they came back down, and he was, 236 pounds for that one. But, it sort of sounds like Parker will come in a bit heavier for his next fight. I think he was 242 for his last fight with Dillian Whyte. Came in a little bit heavier. But if he was to come back even heavier again, it'll be interesting to see, can they get the formula right this time? Because if Parker is no more powerful, or if he has lost a sort of step in terms of hand speed, foot speed, he doesn't look as agile or mobile, certainly we're going to be thinking, is this Groundhog Day? Because they've been here before, and if it didn't work the first time, trying to manufacture some more power, is it going to work? And there certainly have been some questions about Joseph Parker's power, and can he really be sort of, pack a punch with the heaviest hitters in the division? Because he hasn't had a knockout in 2 years, and all this talk of training for strength and conditioning, I just wonder, will they be going away from his strengths, which are clearly his athleticism, his foot speed, his hand speed, his general sort of mobility. Those are all things that are big pluses for Parker, and we saw last time it didn't quite work out. So I think it's a watch this space situation. But what do you make of it all? Junior Far's opponent. It's a former cruiserweight who hasn't really fought much in the last 6 years. Joseph Parker and Junior Far. Are you ready for that, or is that sort of a ways away? I think it is. And Joseph Parker on strength and power. They're trying to make him stronger, but maintain the mobility and agility. Can they do it this time? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.